Okay, I'm just going to read three little pieces from my memoir called For Crying Out Loud. And in this, the part that I'm reading, I am 5, my sister Mary is 7, and my father is the principal of Roosevelt Elementary School, the only elementary school in Roosevelt, Utah. Okay. On Wednesdays, right after kindergarten, we neighbor kids walked 2 blocks from school to primary, a meeting for Mormon kids. As I walked with Rebecca one day, she said, "Diane, hurry, cross the street." Why? Because, see that man over there on his porch reading the paper? Well, he's a Jew, not a Mormon like us. And he killed Jesus Christ. Dad says to walk on the other side when we pass his house. He killed Jesus? That's terrible. Thank goodness he didn't kill President David O. McKay. He owns our church. I liked primary and always lined up with other kids to slip a penny into the slot of the cardboard Primary Children's Hospital, which sat on the podium by the microphone. Primary songs were wonderful, and I picked out the melodies on our piano. My favorite was, "My Body is a Temple." I didn't quite understand it because I'd seen pictures of the real temple in Salt Lake City. The words go, "My body is a temple that needs my tender care. It must be clean and holy to house my spirit there." And I thought, it's a good thing I bathe and wash my hair on Saturday night, so it's clean for Sunday school. Hopefully I'm still clean enough for primary on Wednesday. Daddy started a Christmas school tradition. Each class prepared a couple of carols, which were sung for the townspeople at an evening program. The gymnasium was completely filled for the event, and it was impressive to see 300 students in the bleachers, the boys wearing white shirts with dark pants, and the girls in white blouses and dark skirts. When the whole school sang together, the sound reverberated through the large room just like it must have done each Sunday with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir that we kids listened to on the radio. Kindergarten kids didn't get to sing, but I look forward to next year when I'd be in the 1st grade. After the Christmas presentation, Mama, Mary, and I walked 3 blocks home through the snow under a clear starlit night with a full moon. "Oh, Holy Night" was still ringing in my head. The town lay peaceful and the evening felt magical. My life was perfect. "Mama," asked Mary, "there isn't really a Santa Claus, is there? You and Daddy give us toys, don't you?" What a ridiculous idea, I thought. But I became worried when Mama tried to stall her. "We'll talk about it later, Mary." Although I feared the answer, I heard myself say, "If Mary gets to know I do too." We walked a little further, and Mary continued to pelt Mama with questions while I prayed. "Oh, please, Heavenly Father, don't let it be true. Make Mama say Santa Claus is real." Mary simply wouldn't give up. We were nearly home when Mama sighed deeply. "Yes, Mary, your Daddy and I are Santa Claus, but I wish you'd talked to me alone about it or waited for 2 days until Christmas was over. Knowing this will probably ruin Christmas this year for you and surely for Diane." It did. Our family got 2 new things to make our lives more enjoyable. The first was a car that looked modern. Our old car was black, with a round fat top and a running board by each door. The new car was a green 1949 Ford with gray upholstered seats. It had a nice shape on the outside, went fast, and there were no running boards. I was disappointed it didn't have a radio like my friend Nancy's family car. When I told Daddy, he said we didn't need one. "The radio might be so loud I can't hear myself," he said, and he began whistling Funiculi Funicula. Then he said that he and I could sing better than the radio, so we sang "Someone's in the Kitchen with Danny," my nickname, instead of Dinah. The second thing was our telephone. It was black and sat on a table in the corner of the dining room. I had to stand on a chair to reach it, but I didn't mind. All I had to do was put the receiver to my ear, and a lady said, "Number, please." I didn't have anyone to call, so I said, "Time, please," and she gave me the time. One time when I said, "Time, please," the lady said, "It was 1 minute later than the last time." So I had to quit for a while.
Asked if I could take your card, so I can
Okay, Gary can take a card. He takes your money in all forms.
That's good to know. Diane, I'm so grateful you're so short. Like, also my sweet little bullpenners, I'm so proud of you guys. That was really good. Make sure you don't run away, and I'll take a picture of you guys afterwards. And I guess I'm proud of Gary too. That was really good. I don't know. Okay. In honor of the bullpenners, I brought a flash fiction piece of my own that I wrote as part of a project I did with Shanan Ballam actually a couple years ago. And just like Justin, I just like to push strings. You'll get it. It's called The Thong. She was wearing a thong. I just knew it. The way she played with her hips, mouth, eyes, said, "I have a secret," and whispered, "I want you to know." She danced as she walked, meeting the glances of men to cast her eyes halfway down as she twitched a smile and then beamed it. You would think someone stood next to her and whispered snide comments about the men in her ear as she passed them, but I followed her and she was always alone. Her hair was washed but flat. She wore simple makeup, she was short, and her jacket was wrapped so tightly around herself and her backpack stuck out so far I couldn't see the thong through the thick outline of her jeans, but I knew it was there. I could almost taste it on the pheromone that floated out behind her. I knew it was broad daylight and I would be late for my anatomy class. I knew that she was different from all the girls I followed home on dark Saturday nights to teach a lesson about what happens when girls get drunk so close to the Lord's Day. And I knew that the Lord's Day was still half a week away, and I knew this girl wasn't drunk. But I also knew that she was wearing a thong and that she was acting like it. I knew that she was tempting men with that thin cloth between her legs, and I felt it. And I knew that even though she was different from the girls before her, I had to teach her the same lesson because the Lord wanted me to. I sat next to her in the back of the auditorium. I didn't have this class, and I wondered if she knew, if anybody knew. But I wondered more about the color of her thong. I thought about the fabric's thin arms wrapped around her heavy white flesh, keeping her together while threatening to tear apart. I wondered if it had polka dot stripes or a name on the tag. I wondered what it tasted like. I wondered if it would snap if I pulled it too hard. She reached into her bag and pulled out her things, class about to start. I could see her profile from here, a little pointy, her lips as pale as fingernails. I wondered what her thong would look like stretched across her face. I pulled out a pen from my own bag and resisted the urge to carve a cross into the table as class began. "Look at me," I wanted to scream at her. "Let me see how tight your face can go." I thought about the heavy white flesh being held together, flesh that said, "I have it," and whispered, "Take me if you dare." I took my pen in my right hand and carefully placed it on the backside of hers, on the sinewy conjunction of fingers and thumb. Her face came alive in surprise, not playfulness. She looked at me as if I were shocking her. "Shh," I mouthed, and pressed harder on her pressure point with the inky black tip of my pen. Her eyes were a watered-down brown, just the color I'd expect them to be. I quickly laid my left hand in her lap and began unzipping her jeans. She opened her mouth, and before she could speak, I pressed so hard with my pen her whole body flinched, unzipping her jeans faster. I looked at the back of her professor's head to savor the fleeting first feel. The cottony, cheap underwear flipped aside for the meat underneath. No thong would keep this from me. The Lord told me to. Her professor turned, looked straight at us, looked her right in the watered-down eyes. He turned away. My finger found her cold opening and plunged. And God damn it, her scream scared me so badly. It's no wonder my pen went right through her hand. Thanks, guys.
Oh, I remember working on that one of you. Okay, I'm going to read a couple. I'm going to read, the first one I'm going to read is a pantoum. And you'll hear, and this is cool because I wrote this at the Cache Valley Community Writing Center here every Wednesday evening, is that right? One of our own, Tina Sitten, taught this class and was encouraging us to write in form. So a pantoum, you'll hear a pattern of lifted lines from one stanza moved down to another. I write I'm writing more poems about Red Riding Hood. Some of you guys know that I write about Red Riding Hood in that fairy tale. This is in Red Riding Hood's voice. It's called Red Riding Hood to Her Mother. Under meek starlight, through darkness twisting, with your honeyed voice you led me, mother. Stunned, the moon's white eye misting, dimmed skeleton trees, the gushing river. With your honeyed voice you led me, mother, folded me warm in your fingers, the fire dimmed my skeleton, blood, the gushing river. I did not know, could love expire? Creased alive in your fist, ember of fire, I begged you to spare me, take me back home. I did not know then that love could expire, could the heart ossify to bone. I begged you to spare me, take me back home. I was warned, mother, not to follow you. The heart ossifies, numb, blind bone. I was just a little starlight smudging through. I knew, mother, not to follow you. I saw your gritted smile when I found my way back. I was just a little starlight smudging through your sky. You thrust me a basket to pack. I saw your gritted smile when I found my way back. Stunned, the moon's white eye misting, I cried, but you thrust me a basket to pack. You sent me meek into darkness, twisting. This next one I'm going to read because in our poetry class this last week, we were talking about surrealism and dreams, and I showed the dolly paintings. I see my students here, and I said I'd written a poem based on this dolly painting. And this is called Red Riding Hood, Dreams of Wolf. I climbed his spine, slid into the rinsed sky of his mind, took root, bloomed into a tree of teeth, feasted on spring, its fierce green flesh, its violet mesh of musk and soil. I guzzled summer, its hot black sky, stars spinning drunk on my tongue. There I was doused in autumn's brutal kerosene. There blue ice glittered my incisors. There black mats of winter clotted my hair. I dreamt his head was a thistle gone to seed. Plunging to touch, I blew half his face away. Our next three readers, MaryEllen Greenwood, Loren Smith, Ron Jensen.
Hi, I'm going to read two poems. First is called Unsonnet, a real love poem. Shakespeare spoke of love with perfect couplets. Every line, iambic heartbeat, constant rhythm, steady form. Shakespeare wrote of love with balanced structure, careful rhyme, and Shakespeare, I'm convinced, was full of shit. You and I are waking up with morning breath and aching joints, and losing keys more often than our hearts. We are indecisive what to eat and where and who chose last time. No, I didn't. We are squabbling over bills and kids and time. And we are busy binging Netflix and procrastinating sleep while we giggle, because laughter is our drug. We are holding back and letting go and hanging on and giving more and navigating loss, jobs and health and youth and life. And so we cling by holding hands as if we synergize with touch. Holding hands is all we have, but it's enough. And we are no sonnet. We are love. The ugly, lovely, everything that risks and gambles. forget pattern, structure, verse, embrace free form. This other one is called The Autumn Atheist. E. Cummings rejoiced and thanked his transcendental God for most that amazing day of trees and sky and infinite yes. But who do I thank when God disappears or was never there after all? Hallmark makes no card for the universe, no peekaboo cat poking out of a box to thank Mother Nature for being perfect. So we sit by the river, my daughter and I, as the water runs icy, its mission more urgent, while yellowing leaves detach from their trees and flutter and die in the air, and October skies are the sharpest of blue and flash before fading to gray. And my daughter finds rocks and she sorts them by size, baptizes each river immersion. For even Lazarus lived again, and phoenixes rise from the ash. And I thank you, science, equinox, solstice, for most this amazing day.
Hello. I'm going to read a couple silly poems, I guess. Memento Mori. When I die, I want my obituary written in first person. And since I'm not going to be the one to write it, because I don't plan on dying anytime soon, I like it to start with something like Gooderman's World, I've officially transcended hemorrhoids. And following the circumstances of my death, which should be an exaggerated lie involving such things as samurai armor and beer, a filthy little limerick or haiku should appear in it. Also, please forgo the loving husband-father-son routine because no one says that about themselves. And instead just be blunt, which is that in 04 I knocked up Jackie, and I routinely lied about how much I like stroganoff. Lastly, I want my obituary to end with what's on my tombstone, something like, for God's sake, go do something useful, or damn, it's hot down here. Or even something as ominous as your fly's undone, because that's the obituary that says I'm still alive. This one is, when referring to men as animals, please keep this in mind. While a young man may be a young pup, a middle-aged man a dog, and an old man an old dog, the thing to remember is that even though an old man may be an old fart, and that even though men have a keen sense of smell in this scenario, and that dogs smell other dogs' bums all the time, men do not, despite popular belief, like smelling other people's bums. So keep it to yourself, please. Of course, a young man may be a young buck, but that's only because he's still got hair, the analogous object being antlers, which is why there is no term for old men referring to them as an old deer, despite the fact that old deer probably have antlers. Other men make up for this. Sorry about that. Other men make up for this slight, though, by using the term silver foxes, which denotes not only a full head of hair, but a smart head of hair, too. While an old man could be an old warhorse, which denotes usefulness and experience, and a young man a stud, denoting sexual desirability, there is only one type of man that should be avoided, that being old coots, and coots being birds that are known to play favorites among their offspring by feeding the strongest and letting the weakest die, which is really unfortunate when such a mentality is combined with the ability to fly, which explains how old coots manage to rain down surly, blunt, and unwanted advice on everyone else, despite the fact that they are an entirely different animal. All right, last poem here. Adaptation. It's not that he didn't like sailing, but Boat's body was leaking and his sea legs ached. The shipwright said he was out of date and couldn't be mended, and I suppose the 30 years of doing one thing dulls anyone's shine. Boat thought about being a taxi. He could haul passengers from the airport to hotels in his cabin. He could learn to parallel park, or he could install wings and fly the rich to exotic destinations in almost the same way he did before. But in the end, Boat settled in the Harad Desert, knowing that though they have no use for Holy Boat, they wouldn't care about a leaky roof. Thank you.
Goodbye, Eleanor. Goodbye, Eleanor. We love you so, and we wish that you didn't have to go. We had to wear this for this for years. Now it's a hard for us. You are not here. Now you walk us from above. The pride and joy that we all have. got the phone from over. I think it fits me called the me inside of me. And I don't mind the people I talk to, and not the kind that stop and talk to, but perhaps they know, see, the me inside of me. It's all outside. You can't see. Some can hide the very big, and the ones who only see the me outside of me. Touching is real, and if you feel all the beauty of their lives. It's all that cries out to be free. Look with your heart, and you'll see the me inside of me.
Thank you. And MaryEllen, who read the wonderful poems in Shakespeare, her poem is on this broadside as well. Is she gone?
She stepped out to get some.
Oh, okay. Well, both Gary and MaryEllen can sign your broadside for $2. You'll purchase and just give Gary the money, right? And please fill out your surveys for the Utah Humanities Council. We have 3 readers, final readers tonight: Teresa, Dyer, Ryan Heymore, Julia Stock. Ready?
There's just a lot of Paradise Lost references in my poem. I read a lot of Milton in prison. No, this is a poem that I wrote at the most recent poetry walkabout organized by our poet laureate, Star Colbrick. This is called On the Noises in the Office, Late Nights. 1. They intoned, "It's haunted, you know," and we knew only that they meant to quake our hearts or prick our necks at the back with affright when we worked there late nights. They were the wise, the second-year vets. We couldn't reject what they said, though we tried. 2. The Ray B. West Building, 1918. Neither yet named so, nor yet part of our Utah State University. No classes for English. No. A military barracks, training grounds for fighters going rounds in the first brawl for all the world. How many men, for they were men only then, walked the first floors of these halls, worked there late nights, dreaming without the foresight to dream of the violence ahead, of the ghosts they would wake one day to find in themselves by that war's end, or by its brothers. 3. We worked there late nights, ate gummy worms under fluorescent lights, graded papers and wrote them in a cycle that made our eyes see things we dared not report to each other. The stories they told, those wise, those second-year vets, shined like laptop screens in our minds, but the fun of all-nighters and writing parties dissipated when the rest of them went home to quiet beds and I stayed upstairs alone. Yes, alone. Grading 2 more papers. Why not alone? And the noises on the landing couldn't be my friends gone home. I'm there alone. And the rain on the office roof wasn't falling, not like my bravado. And maybe, once, alone, I heard someone call down the upstairs hall and looked to find my mind had tricked me. Maybe the stories they told us to tease us, to try us, were true.
Before I begin, just know that I do have an accent. I was born in Park City. Yeah, right. No, North Carolina, believe it or not. All right, now this first poem is it's going to be a little bit more lighthearted than the second one. And the second one is heavy because I take poetry from Shanan Ballam. Yes, now my eyes are as bad as a muskrat, so please forgive me if I squint and stutter. This one is called Go Ask Alice When She's Feeling Small. And if you want to hum the Jefferson Airplane song, Go Ask Alice, you can please do it, and I'd love you for it. Okay, so, Go Ask Alice When She's Feeling Small. She combed through her blonde hair, golden hay, amber wires, scathing irises of blue sapphire scowled, and fluttered about the shallow and soft white room. A knock skipped across the metallic door. Entering, a bulky voice vibrated. Alice, time for your remedies. Not a sportive breakfast today, love. No thanks. You may turn around and leave now, Alice calmly offered, still combing her sunshine cords. The robust nurse arched her fat eyebrows. Dear Lord, Alice, are we going to have another problem again today? No, Mom. Might I have my pills, please? The hand, dry, dainty, and worn, caught the tablets. They still looked like mushrooms. They only shrink me smaller nowadays. Absently, dallying down the halls, the tiles singing under her feet. Miss Hart? God, what is it, Alice? Are we going to do EST today? With a deflated velvet tone. Yes, dear. Blue sapphires glisten, glassy, and looking armored and hanging heavy. Once on the table, she heard feet enter the static room. Good morning, my dear Alice. Nurse Hart, let's begin. Wait, Dr. Hannah, please wait. Panic clawed inside her nerve sheaths. Electric zips sizzled in her memory, and her mouth tasted of toasted aluminum wire. A deep breath chewed on her balance. Her eyes staggered. Suddenly, she saw magenta fangs, a very fat tail, and buttery eyes growing like thick mold on the ceiling above. I'm going mad. Never mind. Let's just get about it, shall we? I have a tea party to attend. Thank you. All right, this next one is called The Cold Vidalia. It's nothing about Alice, I promise. Okay, The Cold Vidalia. My eyes are drenched with itchy tears, still burning from last night, and today's additional cries derive from the Vidalia onions. The cold blade invades effortlessly through the white alabaster skin. Each slender slice peels deeper into the watery flesh that hides its every secret, fight, fear, and stranger. All the while, each day passing ages and rots its skin until the eventual harvest rescues it from a complete decomposition. However, having no thumbs, the Vidalia cannot harvest itself. The sherry's long gone, the salt is sprinkled, the table's set, and the wine is finished because today I'm cooking. The harvest must happen before it's too late, and this cold blade can salvage and dissect every wet pore while it's still edible and lovable. During dessert, when your eyes meet mine in the dark hallows of our master bedroom, your eyes will look at me with panic when you realize that I've hidden the cold blade deeper than ever before, thus causing your leaving to hurt you both just as much as it's hurting me. Thank you.
I'm Ryan's limousine driver, and if any of you would like, he will also be signing the poster in the back for $2 a piece. Yes, it goes towards our college fund, thank you. No, we were put up to this, so I only have 2 poems on me. And ironically enough, they were poems that I wrote yesterday after reading through some of Gary Dobbs' poetry. So there were 7 poems we were assigned, and one of them was the one about Moby Dick. And I remember that one kind of struck me funny because it was a type of brutal honesty. And so I took it and I made it in my own right because I had to write an essay that day as well. So this particular one is about an experience that I went through a year ago today, where I went into kind of a deep depression. But it's called Going Through the Motions of Depression. Bear with me, it's very raw. Type your name, put it in the left-hand corner of the page. Claim this thing with the letters of your name. In any case, then at least there's someone to blame. Make your peace with the dead ghosts of past assignments. Pick ones already laid to rest so that they can no longer haunt us. Leave a note detailing why you skipped class today to stay in bed, but make it illness-related. Call it something realistic, like the 24-hour flu instead. What's it going to matter to you? Lie through your honesty that you'll be better than you've been. What's it anyway to them? Double space, type away the pain. Make up analysis for things that aren't there. Prove then that they are. Pull it all up to par. It doesn't seem to matter anyway. It might not leave a scar. Highlight your book for class as if only for coloring. Leave it open on your desk just in case your professor decides to go looking. Sit and half daydream in every lecture, wishing you weren't there. Remember what was said with the other half. Then when asked, pretend that you care. Appear interested. Make your half-ass attempts to look smart. Don't let anyone know the truth that really, you're obviously falling apart. Okay. The next one I want to read came from Barbecue Pizza and a really interesting phone call from an ex. So, and we were practicing a kind of a technique in our class where we combine two different experiences that have absolutely nothing to do with one another. So this is going to be kind of fun. So it's called Everything Tastes Better at a Barbecue. My fingers still taste of barbecue pizza. I lick each finger nice and slow, the flavor disappearing quickly on my tongue as I work on writing essays for my class. Concern rising from a text. I make a quick phone call to my ex. I'm going my own way, and no one gets any say anymore, he affirms to me, his voice bland, loveless, faithless, tasteless, sound speeding through his space to mine, closely distant yet painful too. There's no flavor to the fire now, but who he was used to love me sweet. Now he's removed the spice and is trying to forget all the nice. I remember his flavor too, the way he tasted as he kissed me close, shoeless and coals, rain and old leather engulfing me in the flame of that bright future I'd wanted to forge with him. I turn on YouTube, muted to distract, and absent-mindedly put the reminders back in my mouth, to mentally digest them once more as he speaks to me about what I don't get to know anymore. His eyes settle into mine like a cat, finding its favorite sunning spot and curling up to stay. Sitting, talking in the car after pizza, he turns to me, heart in my abdomen, as with that firm but tender voice he asks me to be his. My hands are clean and no reminders remain. There was once, without the flavor, I thought I'd never remember the taste of that flame. You understand me now, he asks. I answer from the hopeful past. I do.